Hey there, remember the 1980s? It was a time of wild fashion and some really strange trends, but not everything was cool back then. In fact, some things were downright annoying. Today, we're taking a trip back in time to look at 20 things from the 80s that people either loved or totally hated. Let's dive in. Mullets were a big deal in the 1980s. Some folks thought they looked cool with short hair in the front and long hair in the back. But for many, this style was more of a joke than a fashion statement. The mullet became a symbol of questionable choices, with people either loving it or laughing at it. It's a reminder that not every bold fashion trend is a good one. Coca-Cola tried something risky in the 1980s. They changed their classic formula and introduced new Coke. People were not happy. The new taste wasn't what they expected, and the backlash was so strong that Coca-Cola quickly brought back the original formula, calling it Coca-Cola Classic. This whole fiasco showed that sometimes trying to improve on something perfect can backfire big time. Shoulder pads were everywhere in the 80s, especially in women's business clothes. They were supposed to make you look powerful, but many thought they just made you look silly. The big boxy shoulders were more awkward than stylish, and people soon started to mock this fashion trend. It's a great example of how even well-intentioned fashion can miss the mark. Leg warmers weren't just for dancers in the 1980s. They became a big fashion trend, but outside of the dance studio, they didn't make much sense. Wearing them over tights or leggings added bulk without any real benefit, and many people found them ugly and pointless. Despite their popularity in movies like Flashdance, leg warmers are now seen as one of those silly fashion trends that didn't stand the test of time. Pac-Man was a huge hit in the 80s, but the craze went overboard. The game was everywhere, with songs, toys, and even lunchboxes. People got tired of seeing Pac-Man on everything, and what started as a fun game turned into something that annoyed many. This is a lesson in how even great things can become too much if they're overdone. Renting movies on VHS was a beloved activity in the 1980s, but the dreaded late fees could ruin your fun. Forgetting to return a movie on time meant you had to pay up, and those fees could add up fast. The anxiety of rushing to the video store to avoid a fine was something many remember as one of the most frustrating parts of renting movies. The Rubik's Cube was a colorful puzzle that challenged many in the 80s. While some enjoyed the challenge, others found it maddeningly difficult. It often ended up as a jumbled mess collecting dust, reminding people of their failed attempts to solve it. The Rubik's Cube is a perfect example of how something meant to be fun can turn into a source of frustration. Max Headroom was a quirky character from the 1980s, but his TV show left many people confused. The show's weird and futuristic style was hard to follow, and not everyone liked it. While some appreciated its unique approach, others found it too strange. Max Headroom remains a memorable part of 80s pop culture, but his show wasn't everyone's cup of tea. Tab Soda was Coca-Cola's Diet Cola in the 1980s, but its aftertaste didn't win many fans. While some people liked it, most found it unappealing. Tab's marketing tried to make it seem trendy, but the taste just didn't live up to the hype. It's now remembered more for its odd flavor than for being a successful soda. Swatch watches were colorful and bold, making them a big hit in the 1980s. But their loud designs didn't appeal to everyone. Some people loved their unique look, while others thought they were too garish. Swatch watches are a clear example of how fashion in the 80s could be both innovative and divisive. Parachute pants were shiny, baggy, and definitely eye-catching in the 1980s. Popular with breakdancers, these pants were seen as ridiculous by many people outside the dance scene. While they made a statement, it wasn't always a good one. Parachute pants are now remembered more for their over-the-top style than for any lasting fashion impact. The ALF TV show featured a wisecracking alien puppet who lived with a suburban family. Some people found Alf's humor entertaining, but others thought the show was silly and annoying. Alf is a polarizing figure from the 1980s, remembered fondly by some but criticized by others. Plastic sofa covers were popular in the 1980s for protecting furniture, but they weren't comfortable. The covers would stick to your skin in hot weather and made loud crinkling noises. They also made sofas look less inviting. While practical, plastic sofa covers were widely disliked for the discomfort they caused. Hair metal bands like Motley Crue and Bon Jovi were huge in the 1980s. Their catchy songs and flashy style made them popular, but not everyone was a fan. Critics often dismissed hair metal as being more about looks than music. The genre left a lasting impact, but it wasn't without its detractors. The pogo ball was supposed to be a fun toy, but many kids found it hard to use. Balancing on the ball was tricky, and it often led to frustration or even injuries. The pogo ball didn't live up to its promise of endless fun, and many kids quickly lost interest in it. Lawn darts were a popular outdoor game in the 1980s, but they were dangerous. The heavy, pointed darts could cause serious injuries, and after numerous accidents, they were banned. Lawn darts are now remembered as one of the most hazardous toys of the decade. Synth pop was everywhere in the 1980s, with bands like Depeche Mode and the Human League leading the way. But not everyone liked the electronic sound of synthesizers. Some people missed the more natural sound of traditional instruments. The overuse of synthesizers made synth pop a polarizing genre, loved by some and loathed by others. Spandex was the fabric of choice for many clothing items in the 1980s, from leggings to bodysuits. But its tight, stretchy nature didn't always lead to flattering looks. Spandex became a symbol of the decade's exaggerated fashion, with bright colors and bold patterns that not everyone appreciated. Fake fruit was a common sight in 1980s kitchens and dining rooms, but many people found it tacky. The artificial fruit didn't look real and often just gathered dust. Fake fruit decor is now remembered as one of the less stylish trends from the 1980s. Paper fortune tellers were a simple toy that kids loved to play with in the 1980s, but for teachers, they were a nuisance. The constant folding and asking of questions distracted students from their lessons. While fun for kids, paper fortune tellers were often seen as a classroom disruption. So that's our look back at some of the things people either loved or hated from the 1980s. It was a decade full of bold trends and big risks, but not everything hit the mark. If you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, give us a thumbs up and subscribe for more nostalgic content. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.